Continuing from the last report, although flood recovery has been rapid in the largest cities such as Brisbane and some of the smaller towns nearby, recovery has been painfully slow. On the streets of Ipswich, a town located 40 kilometres outside of Brisbane, you can see evidence of the economic devastation the flood brought, with many businesses shuttered up.
With its colonial architecture and small-town feel, arriving in Australia's Ipswich is a bit like travelling back in time.
Yes, it's very historical, and I do a lot of business in Ipswich, yes.
Ipswich history, however, was no help against the floods that inundated this small town. Visiting Ipswich after the floods, we can see that the streets are relatively empty. There are few tourists and many businesses are closed. You can even see a for rent sign hanging in the window of this bank. This bank has announced it is temporarily closed due to the floods. Other businesses have simply given up and closed down for good. Looking at this wall here, the grey area shows you how high the flood waters reached. You also see that residents mark the level to report to the government later on. Although it is hard to see now where the flooding took place, at its peak, floodwaters in Ipswich reached 20 metres, flooding businesses and homes alike and leaving a scene of economic depression in its wake.
Like, for what I've seen, like, all up there was just flooded in, like, completely submerged.
70% of the people affected here, 50% here, another 50% here, altogether 5% of Ipswich, 8,500 people affected, 3,000 homes, and 300 businesses. So it's a major concern.
For the economic downturn that this town is facing, one has to look no further than this restaurant. The 300 square metre restaurant is almost empty at lunchtime. With no customers, employees find other things to do, and even the owner can be seen wiping tables.
Out here, we probably in that initial week lost about 50% of our business. 50%, yeah.
Although the restaurant is currently losing several thousand Australian dollars a week, Stephen is not worried. He says that as long as they maintain their quality, the crowds will be back.
A bad time and all that sort of thing, they still want to go out, so they'll probably pick the cheaper place, which will be us sort of thing. They won't be going to the higher upper market restaurants and that sort of thing. So yeah, so I'm not too concerned about it at all, as our Brisbane restaurant's already back up to where it was normally, so yes.
Without the resources of its larger neighbours, Ipswich has approached charitable organisations in hopes that outside help can speed up the town's recovery. Plans to promote tourism have also been started.
Tourism to Ipswich is worth about $100 million a year. Right? And our statistics show that 30 to 40% of that is people visiting relatives and friends. And we believe we've made a lot more friends during this time of the disaster. And we're asking them to come back and visit us, and we'll say thank you.
By bringing in tourists and their spending power, this small town is on the right road to recovery.